Are you alive, or just functioning? Ever since I began this path, ever since I first came into contact with these ideas, I've heard about self-remembering. This term has been with me since the beginning, and even though I've heard it countless times, even though I've tried to understand it, even though I've even tasted something of it, I know, with every fiber of my being, that it still holds more than I can comprehend. Self-remembering is not an idea that runs dry. It's a riddle that grows with me. Each stage of my journey has revealed a new aspect of this mystery, but there's something I must constantly remind myself. No matter how much I think I understand, there is always more, always deeper layers. Sometimes confusion begins with the words themselves. We speak of self-observation, and it's true, there is value in that. Observing my behavior, my reactions, my gestures, seeing myself act in the world as if I were a silent witness. And yes, this is part of the work. But self-remembering is something different. It points to something that cannot be grasped, something that doesn't allow itself to be held the same way I observe a habit or a behavior. It is not something objective, fixed, or visible. When I speak of self-remembering, I speak of a kind of presence that cannot be captured by the functions I know, not by thinking, not by feeling, not by the body. I speak of a state where I perceive that I am, but this I is separate from all its manifestations. It is a rupture with the ordinary way of being. In ordinary life, I'm used to accepting, without realizing, that I am my functions, that I am what I think, that I am what I feel, that I am what I do. But there are moments, brief, rare, sacred, when something in me knows this isn't true. There is an I that sees the thoughts, but is not the thoughts, that feels emotions, but is not the emotions, that perceives the body, but is not the body. This mysterious I, this silent essence, is what lives when I remember myself, and the rest, everything else, is dead. Yes, I say this clearly. Without self-remembering, I am dead. I may walk, speak, work, laugh, but all of it happens as if by inertia. A marvelous organism moves, but I am not there. I am only alive when I remember myself, and I'm not talking about thinking about it. Thinking is not enough. Thinking about self-remembering is like striking water with a stick. Nothing changes. It's just surface agitation. Self-remembering is an experience. It happens in different degrees, at different levels, but never through words. Only when I return to myself, consciously, directly, can I say I am truly alive. But how do I return? It always begins with attention which is usually scattered, pulled by 1,000 stimuli, must be gathered. I need to bring it back, feel its presence, and then divide it. One part remains with what I'm doing, another part observes, but there is still a third, the most subtle, the most essential, that keeps alive the experience of my own existence. And to sustain this state, I sometimes use an anchor, a gesture, a breath, a physical sensation, something that reminds me of me, something that keeps me awake. That's how I begin, because when I return, even for a few seconds, I realize something important. I am two. There is the one who acts, and the one who sees. There is the one who reacts, and the one who knows. And this perception is the beginning of truth. Over time, I began to realize that it's not enough to want to remember myself. There are forces within me that resist. Sometimes I begin the effort, and within seconds, it's gone. Attention, that vital thread of consciousness, slips away. It's pulled back into the mechanical flow of life. Even when I do remember, even when there is that glimpse of presence, the experience can still be superficial. And this happens for a very clear reason. The idea that without self-remembering I am dead is not yet fully alive within me. It's not an exaggeration. It's not a metaphor. It's literal. Without it, I am nothing more than a body trained to function, a bundle of habits, a reflex, an automaton. Only when I am present in myself, aware of my separate existence, can I say, now I am alive. And even so, even knowing this, How many times do I forget? How many times do I return to myself, only to fall asleep again? Because it's not enough to remember once. Attention must be protected, sustained, preserved. And for that, I've discovered that it's not enough to divide it into two parts. It's not enough to be in the world and observe myself at the same time. I need three simultaneous directions. One part of my attention remains on the outer activity, driving, walking, talking. Another part stays with myself, silently sensing my own existence. And a third sustains the method, the technique that anchors me, that reminds me to remember. It is this third part that prevents attention from fleeing again. It is the counterbalance that maintains the state. And even then, the proportion between these three directions may vary. Sometimes almost all of my attention is on the activity, other times on the technique. But the most important, the most essential, is my awareness of myself, because it is my being that shares life with everything that lives. It is my being that breaks the illusion of separation. When I do not remember, when I identify with the functions, I feel separate from everything. I am here, and the world is over there, but when I remember, when I return, there is unity, there is presence. This is the true inner movement. This is what turns life into a field of work. Every action, every task, every distraction becomes an invitation to return. And the more I practice, the more familiar I become with this inner path. That's why there is value in moments of isolation, in silent practices, in retreats. They are maps, they are training grounds, so that when the chaos of life returns, I know the way back, because there is a higher dimension to which I belong, a dimension that remains always present even when I am blind to it. And this dimension is not separate from this world. It is the reverse side of the sensory world. It is behind, within, above everything. But it cannot be reached through direct effort. It cannot be forced nor manufactured. One can only open to it. And when I open, when I truly separate from my functions, I feel something arise within me, something that was not there before, a living presence, a pure awareness, a breath of being. But even when I feel this state, even when something awakens within me, it doesn't last. My attention slips away. Sleep returns. And I ask myself, why does it escape me so easily? It's because there are many eyes within me that don't want this state. There are parts that resist, that prefer the mechanical comfort of repetition. But that's not all. Because even when I want to remember, even when I prefer this state of presence, something still pulls me away. Attention once again is dragged back, and that's why I must be practical. I need to recognize that living consciously, truly living, means protecting my attention. It means creating conditions, both internal and external, to sustain this precious state for more than just a few seconds. Yes, 3 seconds may be the beginning, but I can reach 4, and then 5. That is the path. In the long run, I've discovered something fundamental. The body is the most stable anchor. The sensation of physical presence, the clear and direct perception of the body as something I observe but am not, becomes the foundation of my remembering. The head is occupied with thoughts, the heart with emotions I cannot summon at will, but the body is always here. I can feel my feet touching the ground. I can feel my breath. I can feel the weight of my hands, the posture of my spine, the warmth of my skin. And when I do this, when I perceive that something in me is aware of the body, but is not the body, something lights up. It's as if a light shines behind the mask, as if matter gives way to the invisible. And in that moment I understand. All spiritual experiences are sensations in the body, not as a metaphor, but as a living reality. This perception reconnects me with an ancient teaching, forgotten by many. The body is the temple of the Lord. The body is the laboratory of transformation. The body is the field of work, because it is here in this body, man, with its habits, its density, its limitations, that I must cultivate the gold of presence. It is through it that I can transform sleep into awakening, habit into choice, the machine into man. Yes, self-remembering is a vast spectrum. It is an immense territory. And the greatest danger is believing I already know it well enough. Every time I think I understand that I've reached it, I close the door to the next step. Behind the sensory appearance of the world, there is a living mystery, something that calls me, something that pulses, something that responds when I am there. But I cannot force this mystery. I cannot capture it. The only thing I can do is make space for it to find me. And when it happens, when, for whatever reason, I'm brought back to myself, I must treat that moment for what it truly is, sacred. It doesn't matter whether it came through discipline or by accident, whether I provoked it or life gave it to me. The return to myself must be honored. I must receive it as a gift, as a sign, as a reminder that I exist, and that I exist beyond what I think, beyond what I feel, beyond what I do. And even if my attention escapes again, even if I fall back into forgetfulness, I must rise, return, begin again. Because to truly live is not just to breathe. It is to be present in my own being. It is to live consciously. And this is the beginning of true freedom. Real life does not happen on autopilot. It begins in the moment I remember myself. And no matter how brief that moment is, it is eternal.